All right, so first up, we're going to take a look at A Midsummer Night's Dream. And what would you say about this particular play and this production, Katie, and what was the genesis of your design?
Right. So originally we had started with having the show set in the 1950s. And so I really was trying to develop the look for the lovers and how they were going to create the world. So that world was going to be very bright and in the kind of pastel tones and very 1950s, almost like a prom look. And then my idea for the fairies, I wanted to make sure that they were very different from that world because we talked about them really coming into the human world and it being very different. So we had originally talked about Oberon having this inspiration of kind of an Elvis rock and roll rockabilly kind of character. And I have no idea where the fairies came from, like the idea that I had, it just kind of kept developing. And I had this kind of darker image where the human world was very light and fluffy. And I wanted the fairy world to be kind of a little edgier and dark. So that's kind of the direction we went into. And it kind of became a little more modern kind of rock and roll than the 1950s rock and roll, but that kind of meshed with Oberon being inspired by the 1950s characters.
And you really pulled it off beautifully. I remember coming into the costume shop and saying, what are these fairies exactly going to look like? And I remember that you had a lot of source material, but you hadn't designed each one of them individually. You were just kind of pulling together different pieces of fabric. And then to top it off, you kind of decided on these white wigs. Did you want to talk about that process a little bit?
Yeah, I would say that the process of designing the fairies was very organic in that I was letting kind of some of my research imagery drive me and like kind of the fabrics that I found and the materials to kind of help me put them together. So I really did take the time to just kind of drape them in the costume shop and start putting pieces together to be able to see where these fairies were going to go. And then once I had all these pieces together, I decided that we should probably make them feel even a little more surreal to these 1950s humans. So that's where the white wigs came in. We decided to do kind of this kind of punk, more modern hairdo, but then they were all kind of in this white and black color palette. So.
And it worked beautifully. Let's take a look.